What's up, boys and girls? What's going on? It's your boy Hebot coming at you once again with another video. And today we're going to talk about Sony losing 2 million subscribers from their PlayStation Network service, which is their version of Game Pass, right? Alongside them selling 25 million PlayStation 5, quote unquote, but they had no growth. They actually lost when it came to game sales. Meanwhile, Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass is accounting for 17% of Microsoft's growth in game sales every year or every quarter. And this is Sony once again, instead of taking responsibility for them losing 2 million subscribers, they're trying to play the blame game on people buying a bunch of third-party games and yet going outside and having a good time instead of playing video games, which is a bunch of horse malarkey. Because if that's the case, then of course we wouldn't have had games like Elden Ring earlier during the year, or even now, for example, something like Call of Duty hit the high numbers that it's hitting. Because the bottom line is, people play and buy games depending on what they feel is worth their value and money for their value, right? Or the value for their money, right? If they don't see value enough, they're not going to spend and buy it. That's why Game Pass has been so successful. And that's why Sony's service is not successful. Because Sony is refusing to put any exclusive games day and date. On top of that, Sony is refusing to update the actual service, where all the old school legacy stuff from PS3, PSP, PS2, and even PS1 to be available through the service as a dedicated server. Only the PS4 and PS5 games run as a dedicated server. It's all stream based, and streaming games on a service is horrendous. It doesn't work well. It does not work well. It may work well for a few selected people because they have maybe good internet or good satellite that give you good internet close by to their homes. But for the most part, it doesn't work well for people, right? And this is the biggest difference, because the Game Pass all runs on dedicated servers. So all you do is download the game on your hard drive, and you're playing it as if you had it and owned it already on your hard drive, right? So that is a big factor. Not only that, Sony don't want to take the responsibility to admit that they got all their legacy titles trapped to the service. They don't give free backwards compatibility in the way that Microsoft has, right? Not even for their own first-party titles that are legacy titles. You see? You got to pay for that stuff. Or it's under the paywall of the actual PSN Now network service, right? Which is another factor into the whole situation, right? They don't want to take the responsibility that they can instead paying for, all these timed exclusives like Forspoken, or like Kena, or like they're doing now with Final Fantasy VII Remake, or Final Fantasy 16, or Silent Hill 2. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? The Last Ronin, Project Eve. Here's a thought, Sony. If you would, since you pay for those timed games to be exclusive anyway, and not for the development, then you could have used that to utilize the ability and put them on your service, right? While paying for the exclusivity, and you're killing two birds with one stone, because you're making your service appealing for people to actually want to subscribe by having the exclusive games that you're paying for, even though there may be time to be day and date on that service when they release, alongside your third-party games. Because your first-party games, no matter what, whether you put it on a service or not, they're going to do well, because by putting it on that service, people are going to realize if they want to spend the money and pick it up, or if it's not worth their money. And since they claim, you so-called claim, that all your games are the world's greatest games that heal people, that turn people into the best fathers, the best mothers, that show lesbians how to have the greatest lesbian relationships, right? Since those games of yours do all these beautiful, wonderful, miraculous, miracle, world-moving things, then your games will sell. You'll put them on your service. People will play it. They'll see how great they are, and they'll run right out and buy them with no hesitation. Right? If you want your service to grow, you have to make the service appealing, where it's worth people's while or people's money, where you get their attention. Right? Like the way HBO Max did for that 1 year, where as soon as people, or they announced that you will be able to watch all the movies coming out for that year, that same day and date, right? That you will be able to watch them in your home with no problem. All those people went, and their subscription service went up immediately. Like a big amount of people subscribed. Just because they wanted to watch movies like Dune or the new Matrix, right? Or Little Princess, that thriller with Denzel, or the Heights, right? They were able to watch all those movies in their homes the day they released in theaters, in the comfortability of their home, without having to worry about going to a movie theater and being uncomfortable around other people if they don't feel like going to a movie theater. It was an amazing option, and that's why, boom, the subscription jumped right up. And what happened with HBO Max? As soon as they took that out and claimed that they no longer would do this, that movie would come out 45 to 65 days after their release. What ended up happening was all that subscription they had started to drop down. And they started to lose. Ask them what's going on. And they started to lose subscribers because they made the service from being appealing to no longer being that appealing. And that's the problem also with your service. That your service, although it's supposed to have so many games, a lot of it is old school shovelware that's really, really old. A whole bunch of like corny freaking third parties that are like really, really bad, that nobody cares about, right? And that's it. That's why Microsoft knew that putting Game Pass with just older games wasn't going to work, because people are not going to be willing to pay for it with just old games, especially that if not every game is good or great. Now, if you make the service appealing the way they did with Game Pass, by adding third-party exclusives, right? By adding first-party games, then obviously, yeah, so again, like I was saying, that, you have to make it appealing. And again, like I was speaking earlier, when you look at something like HBO Max, they had all those great movies coming out, or not necessarily great, but the movies coming out day and date with the theaters, and their subscription base shot up. And as soon as they stopped it, it went right down. So Sony, instead of playing the blaming game, just like you're trying to play the blaming game now with Microsoft, that they're trying to buy everybody because you can't afford to buy a big company like Activision, even though they were the ones that went to Microsoft, because you're claiming they're trying to take the Call of Duty away because it's like 20% or 19% of your revenue yearly, even though you're doing all these other schemy things where they can't put it on Game Pass, where they don't get none of the perks early, none of the maps early, none of the extra features early. They can't have crossplay, all that crap that you're doing, right? Because that's what you want to keep doing, like doing bundles with your console, selling it, so that you can make it seem like it's a PlayStation-owned property when it's not, because that's what you're doing, is playing the perception game, trying to act as if, oh, look at us, you're the home of Call of Duty, right? Even though Call of Duty grew and became big because of the 360. Whether you guys want to hear it or not, don't like it, that's too fucking bad. That's the facts. 360 made Call of Duty relevant, prevalent, and big. It wasn't no PS4. Okay? The PS4 people, or the people that went to PS4, following and chasing Call of Duty, were actual 360 natives and went over there to PS4 because they're shills to the goddamn game and to the multiplayer component and to hunting the maps all day, first day, day and day, etc., etc. So that's the real truth. Instead of trying to blame them for ruining your growth and wealth yearly on your PlayStation brand because you don't know how to make your own actual, game to compete that's worthy or deemed worthy or with quality, because you're too busy having your developers make heavy driven narrative games that feel more like movies instead of video games, which something like the Plex Tales Requiem, right, proves that can be done. You can have a heavy narrative game, or even the Gotham Knights, right, but that doesn't shy away from what it really is, a video game, right? And that's what the problem with you PlayStation games always are. It's more about the narrative than it is about the gameplay and the gameplay's robustness and quality, right? So now you're playing the blame game about people going outside or third-party games coming out, taking away your shine from your services. So again, and then that makes you look even more foolish because you guys are the ones that have been claiming the entire time that your exclusives are the biggest and the most hypest and the most fierest exclusives in the universe. So everybody buys them. They sell like hotcakes, right? So it wouldn't matter if third party comes out. If you got an exclusive like you did earlier with Horizon, right? Forbidden West, and your GT Sports that you came out earlier this year, then those games would have sold like crazy. Crazy enough this year that it would have never made you worried or lost money from other third-party releases, right? Which I would love to know what other third-party releases sold in the numbers, like something like Elden Ring, right? Even Elden Ring was an anomaly. That doesn't happen. No Demon Souls or Dark Souls type games sold like that. Elden Ring was the first one, but that's because of all the media hype and the word hype of people and pushing it. Oh my God, it's the greatest thing since Jesus Christ. Who cares in this game you can't jump, climb rocks, go in the water? Who cares if the game drops to 19 frames per second? Who cares? It's amazing, right? But they want to cry because Gotham Knights supposedly dips 1 or 2 frames during gameplay or during the segments when you ride a bicycle or the motorcycle, which doesn't deter from the game at all. But let's not call out the hypocrisy. I digress, right? Anyway, Sony, word of advice, stop playing the victim role. Learn to take accountabilities for your missteps, your bad business decisions, and your stupidity, and in many points, your arrogance. Put games day and date that are exclusives, and you will see how it will grow, because people will not be afraid to buy the service, to try the games out, and once they see how good the games are, if they're really worth the time, they will go buy the game without hesitation, because that's what is happening with Game Pass. And instead of doing those exclusive deals to have the game just exclusively on the console, like Paradise Eve and The Last Ronin, do the exclusivity since you're going to do it anyway, but make sure that you put it on your service day and date. You see how that works? And I guarantee you'll see the difference. Give free upgrades for your legacy titles since you're making people pay for them. Do something to make people feel like they're getting their money's worth. Or value. So, I just wanted to touch on that. So it's funny how nobody's talking about it. Not in the media and not the big Sony shows. Nobody's talking about it. Why? Because it doesn't suit their narrative to speak negatively with their preferred console, the Sony PlayStation or the Sony brand. They don't want to make their, oh no, we're not going to talk bad about our baby. No! Crazy! And that's the problem right there. So they love doing all types of shit in articles when it comes to the Xbox. Woo! They fly. The same thing as with Nintendo fans. They'll never talk bad about Nintendo. But when it was the story with the whole thing with Helena Tyler, when, you know, they wanted to put the blame game just on her, right? And not taking into accountability that it was Nintendo funding the game with Platinum, right? Because Platinum doesn't have the money. That's why they were paying her a lower wage of money, whether it was $4,000 or whether it was $15,000, still a low amount of money for the body of work that she was doing, because of the fact that they were not funding the game with high numbers. They didn't pay $25 million to make Bayonetta. They probably gave them $15 million. That's it, to make Bayonetta 3, right? So it makes sense, right? Even though she's wrong and lied about the numbers, because I said that too, something sounds off because Bayonetta, the series as a whole, has failed. Anybody that's been a fan that knows and follows it knows that it had failed. That the game sold in the millions after the fact because it was sell for like $20, $30, $15. Not because it sold at the price point where they sell it from day and date, right? At the initial release for $60, for example, right? That's not how it was at all. And so the game sold at diminished returns. So you have 1.33 million people that play Bayonetta 2, but they bought the game in diminished returns. They didn't buy the game at its initial release, right? And that is the difference that people don't know how to distinguish, that there is a difference. And so, okay, 1.33 million people have the game and played it, but they didn't necessarily support it where it made enough money. Okay? And the first game only sold 1.74 million, something like that. So in other words, 1,740,000 copies and units, right? So again, and then you come to find out that the gross worth of this game, of what is made as far as financially, is only 3 million. I mean, it's only 185 million, 600 or 400,000. Because Helena took her numbers to calculate what she thinks they made based off VG charts, which VG charts is also fake and unreliable. And we've been saying this for years. And people said that we're crazy. But this comes out, exposes VG chart in favor of Nintendo to protect Nintendo against Helena Tyler. And now everybody's like, oh, VG chart is fake. But if next month VG chart says that the Xbox surpassed sales that the PlayStation surpassed sales by 40 million with the Xbox, everybody said, you see, the PlayStation 4 is destroying the Xbox. You guys get the point. So, anyway, that's my thought on it. Sony, grow up, learn how to make your services that you offer much more appealing, much more worth the value with people's money, and you'll see a change in the numbers and growth. It's called Business 101. I don't know how you survive as long as you have when you don't know how to have and know how to make real good business decisions. Okay? Because you guys said yourself that you had no clue how the PS4 even was doing well because y'all didn't have a games lineup until 3.5 years in of this console's life cycle. You said it yourself. You admitted it yourself. It was Sean Layden himself who said that. Or I think it was not Jack Trenton, but the other guy, Andrew House, I believe. When Jack Trenton left, right? So again, right? Learn to take responsibility and accountability for your own bad business decisions. Stop blaming people. Stop blaming Xbox. Stop blaming the gamers. Stop blaming the outside doors, nature. Stop blaming summer. Whatever the case may be. You sound foolish. You sound stupid. Like you always have. And grow up. Okay? That's what y'all need to do. Grow up. And if you're losing subscribers, you're getting what you deserve because your service is garbage. Your service is trash. Bottom line. In comparison to Game Pass, it's a joke. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video. Leave a thumbs down if you didn't like the video. As always, you guys can follow me in any social media network outlet. It's all down in the description below. Share this video with somebody you think might enjoy and like it to stir good gaming conversation. So, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Your boy Hebot signing off. Love you, peace, and I'll see you very soon on Mi Carrito Productions. Peace.